Nancy, if you'd bring us up, please.
Good morning, Commissioner.
All right. Bannock County Commissioners are in session. No real changes to the agenda.
Mr. Chair, make a motion that we approve the agenda as posted.
Have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We do have Board of Ambulance bills. So that'll be our first item of business.
Mr. Chair, make a motion that we enter into the Board of Ambulance.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
What we have here is some refunds and give backs. That's all. And we said as the Board of Ambulance, as the County Commissioners.
Gotcha.
And so when we conduct any business pertaining to the ambulance, we go into that board.
Different hats. Mr. Chair, make a motion that we approve the invoices as presented and exit the Board of Ambulance.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, next we have Commissioners' invoices, Commissioners' report, and credit cards. This is an authorization to allow Commissioner Crowder to sign invoices.
Oh. Retroactive.
Quick question on the new facility that we're going to be buying. For all of those remodels, would you like Dan Kendall to be able to sign off on those, or do you want the board to? I need to set up the authorization, but,
Dan,
okay.
he's gonna oversee it. He's gonna, I just send that he's gonna okay them all.
Okay,
And
then
then they'll come before us.
okay, we'll get an authorization sheet for you guys to sign on Tuesday
Okay.
with that direction.
Okay.
All right, so we have the Commissioner's report. There's only one, where did I put it? Right there. One item that I wondered about on it, and that was, maybe there was two, I thought. Santa suit.
For a holiday party, it's one of our problem-solving courts. It's
Okay.
drug court. Yeah.
I mean, we got a lot of Christmas party stuff in here. When I see a Santa suit, who's doing this?
Yeah. Leave it to the problem-solving courts. Those are always the random.
Okay.
But now we know the county has one. If anybody knows.
Well, that's what happens to it now. That's kind of the question.
Pretty good question. I'll have to
And
ask.
then this one's on the credit card.
Mhm.
Or is this not? That was the credit card. This one's on the other one. Gloves for the groomer coming out of Road and Bridge.
I wonder if that's because they bulk buy those things. And it seems like we had a meeting where we talked about if you needed safety type equipment, that we could get them from them, but I'm
Well,
not
they
sure.
ordered a lot of gloves. I mean, there's some
Right,
gloves and
so-
stuff ordered here. I just, it
Um,
caught my attention was the groomer. I mean, we have a separate account for
right.
them, so I
I'm not
just,
sure why they paid for them. How much was it?
$126. I mean,
Yeah, the only thing I could think of is because if they just included it within their order, but where they broke it out,
just,
leave it marked and I'll follow up and
Okay.
see if by some crazy chance, because where they broke it out separate, we can always do a code correction for that.
I just,
But it does seem weird why Road and Bridge would pay for it when we have a funding source.
and then this morning I went over with Jason and we signed,
Uh-huh.
and here's the monies
Yes,
coming out, so we'll take a check over after
Yep.
and we sign this.
we had the check ready at 8:25, but unfortunately that was about 25 minutes Well,
It doesn't matter.
35 minutes later.
Yeah, no,
Jason
it
just wants
works,
to
but I
go.
just acknowledge that we were writing that check and we did purchase a building this morning.
Jason just wants to go back.
I'll give that key to Dan
Okay.
so he can get over there.
Yep. Yep.
This is all we sign right here?
Yes. Yep. And you probably saw the copy, the electronic copy.
I'm not getting all this stuff, so I'm gonna talk to him about this after the meeting. I've already made a note about that.
Okay,
Let
okay.
me, you know what, let me look at my email
This
real
would have
quick.
come in last night electronically about 5 o'clock.
Okay, well, I was here till 6. So
Okay,
I should
so
see
that's,
it.
anyway.
Maybe I just didn't open it.
Okay. And then here's our CCOG bills.
Okay. All right, yeah, I didn't see that. Actually, I saw it pop up and I didn't even look at it, so. Oops.
See, make sure that you're on.
I'm on there. I saw it.
Okay, okay, that's what it is.
Okay.
Just so you know, that's what it looks like.
And then there's clip form. And these invoices are, we have an agreement with CCOG to manage this for us. It's our,
Well,
This is the one where they're clearing all
Clearing
the
all the
brush.
brush.
Yeah, the brush, yeah. That's interesting. That's our only CCAR thing, I think.
What's
At the
that?
moment, is that our only CCAR deal?
yes, yes, yes. All right. We have a motion on them?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the commissioner's invoices, commissioner report, and credit application as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Well, looks like that's all we have on that end of it. Ryan, you want to go first on the general?
I did, but my team was canceled, so I can go last again. It's
Well,
not a big deal.
you're
I
here.
can go.
You're here.
Okay, it should go quickly. So Ryan Belknap, HR Director. Last week I submitted some standard operating procedure new chapters. One of them was the employee performance evaluation. The other was on internships. And you had reviewed them and asked me to make a few edits and then bring them back today. So I have done that. I've highlighted the edits I made. There really wasn't much on the performance evaluation to edit, but on the internship one I did. And I tried to incorporate the suggestions you gave me. And in the process, I found a couple other little things that I could clarify, and so I've highlighted all the changes I made. So I just would like to get your approval on that so we could begin implementation. And then I'm excited especially for the performance evaluation one because this has been worked on for a long time, and I thought we had pretty good collaboration across the county and elected officials to create something that works for a wide range of the county.
Questions?
I have some questions. In 9.01, it says Bannock County shall have a standard procedure and forms developed by Human Resources for annual employee performance evaluations. Individual departments may modify the standard procedure and forms with consultation of Human Resources. Does that mean that HR has to sign off? It says they can modify with consultation. Does HR then have to sign off for an individual department to make a modification?
Discussions and practice have been, a lot of that comes from the sheriff's office because they've already have a process in place they've been using for years and pretty successfully. And so we have had discussions and conversations, and it's like, okay, yeah, go your own way. And so it was, for situations like that, do I have to sign off on it? I don't think I have authority to do that, right? This is just,
So they're
with
required to
consultation.
consult with HR?
Yes.
But then they can do whatever they want?
the elected official, this is a procedure, not a policy. So technically, the elected official,
Well, and I think that part of it is that we're just implementing this.
Mhm.
And we want a kind of an overall picture of what we're doing.
Mhm.
And if somebody wants to go way out in the left field, talk to HR, which will come and talk to us.
Okay.
So that we make sure that we're all in the same ballpark and not
Right.
somebody says, well, my interview is just talking to somebody and I don't have to write anything down. I can't, no, that isn't what we want.
Right.
We want to follow, start a procedure that will be adjusted as we go. We haven't done evaluations in the county,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and we'd like to get that started.
Gotcha.
yeah.
All right. On 9.02, you talk about departments taking training that you're going to provide. Are they required to take this I think it's supervisor training on how to implement this. Are they required to take the training?
At this point, there's not required no. Though we have provided some already and will continue to do so. My plan is send some communications out through email
Mhm.
and then visit departments one at a time and provide, me and Josh kind of go on circuit and just kind of, hey, we're kicking this off, let's get some training going.
Mhm.
So, but required,
So to some degree, we're going to start this up and we're going to see what happens and see how it's working out, and then maybe if we need to make some modifications.
We'll adjust, I
We would do
guarantee
that.
we'll.
every year, yeah, every cycle we'll tweak it.
Gotcha. Okay, jumping down to 10.01, this is dealing with college students who are interns.
Yeah.
Is it possible to have high school students as interns?
If they receive some kind of academic credit or some benefit that way, I mean, because we can't just like hire and have someone work for us without them getting some kind of academic
Right.
benefit to it, right?
Right.
So you're right, we haven't in the past, but I guess it's a possibility.
It is a possibility, so we could do that.
Yeah.
Okay. You have some pretty advanced high school students. There were a bunch of them in a big debate over at ISU this weekend. They look pretty professional.
Yeah. They would just, as we'd have to work with their school, right?
Right.
And make sure that they're getting something from
We
this.
do have certain positions that have age restrictions and stuff too.
That's true.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Certain positions would have age restriction.
Right, yeah,
Restrictions.
for sure.
So that would be a special situation. And one of the things with these procedures is, if there's something that makes sense, we can always ask for an exception and run it, to the elected official and you.
Okay, well, at some point, I'd like to consider looking at some of the high school students as well.
Okay,
It
yeah,
might be
but
something worth doing.
I'd love to work with you on that. I
Sure thing.
love using internships. I think it's a great way, out-of-the-box way to address the difficult labor market right now.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Further questions? Motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the policy and standard operating procedure changes for HR as presented.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Come on up, Scott.
Trying to time that just right.
You did.
Good morning, Scott Crowther, Event Director, Business Manager. Would you guys mind introducing yourselves?
Dana Edwards.
Mike Collins.
Okay, so we have a new opportunity for the event center. We haven't done one of these before, and we're kind of excited to give this a shot this year. So we were approached by Deneb and his group about doing a Renaissance fair up at the event center. So trying to find the right place to put this fair and where to put it, what it entails is what we've been working on over the last month or two. Deneb, do you guys want to just talk about your event, and then we'll talk about what we are proposing?
So we've done, Mike and I have been participating in Renaissance fairs for quite a while now, and we've wanted to host one here locally because we have to travel to different Utah, over to Boise area to do the Renaissance fairs. And, so we've been looking for the last year for a place that we could host it, and we settled on the fairgrounds. And
so we found a location.
So tell me a little bit about, I have my concept of what a Renaissance fair is. Tell me what your concept of
Yeah,
Renaissance
we're
fair.
kind of trying to broaden it a little bit. The fair that we're working on isn't, it's going to be like a Renaissance fair, but we're coining it as more like a medieval fantasy fair, so we're not just stuck with the Renaissance time frame. But basically, it'll be just a big community fair, everybody to come in, very family oriented. So they can come in and enjoy. We've got one of the headliners that we've already talked to, and we're just waiting basically for the location to be solid before we send them the money. Salt Lake City Crusaders, they're a fighting group, full armor, full steel, competition fighting, not like a choreographed thing. They're a huge draw, really, really fun to watch. I've been selling swords, and for a while I did handmade leather works and stuff like that since 1986 at fairs throughout Washington, Oregon, Utah. The next one I've got coming up is in Wyoming. So I've been doing this for a while as far as the participating and selling part. But there's just nothing in this area. Everywhere, like you said, everywhere we go, we've got to go out of state. We've got to go, 4 or 5 hours to find a fair to vend at. And I think that with the growing, I wouldn't say that, the geekness, Lord of the Rings movies, Game of Thrones, all this stuff is like mainstream, very popular, and it's just growing rapidly right now. I think it's a glorious time to try to bring that type of venue to this area because we just don't have it.
So it's a lot of vendor booths, some exhibitions, food, merchandise, that kind of stuff that will be sold. So finding the right location was obviously a big thing for us. The area we're looking at is not something that we have a fee associated with. So on the southeast corner, there's a small kind of patch of grass that we usually younger kids will go play soccer up there. They'll hold some soccer practices. Anyway, it's a pretty decent sized property, or portion of our property. What we would be looking for in this contract is we would do some temporary fencing around there. They would bring in porta potties and some generators for the vendors, and then they would charge access for people to enter the fair. Many of the vendors that come to this fair have got a lot of money invested in what they're selling, and so they like to camp with their vendor booths, and so we've added in some dry camping into this contract. So we have a setup and teardown day, and then 2 days. We pulled the fee from just a regular soccer field rental because that's about the space. And then we added in a little bit of money for the dry camping, about an estimate of what the number of people that we can anticipate. Obviously, it's the first year. We don't know 100% how many vendors are going to show up, what that's going to look like. The other draw for us is we do have the ability to sell alcohol at this fair with 100% of the proceeds coming to the town. So that's something that we've got to evaluate once we get our team on board. If it's something that we want to take up and do that, then that's something that we would be responsible for with 100% of the proceeds coming back to us.
What are you guys anticipating for attendance or hoping for?
so I've been to a couple of first year fairs around. There was one up in Rexburg that just started about 6 years ago now, and they had like 5 vendors and maybe 400 people will come through. But it was in a swamp outside of Rexburg. And so it was kind of not a huge population to pull from. And that's kind of one of the reasons why we wanted to bring it here, because we've got Pocatello and we've got Idaho Falls, and we've got a couple of people within an hour of that people travel to these events.
With our contacts, we're probably looking at a good 15, 20 vendors at least.
Yeah.
So it's hard to estimate, as far as attendance goes for patrons. But I mean, our goal for first year would be, maybe around 1,000-ish or something like that, I would think. It's
And
really
how many
good.
did you say you had in, where was it, Blackfoot is when you?
Rexburg.
Rexburg, and you had 400?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's
Is
kind of
that
that
enough
population
space?
pool thing. But it was also, like I said, 6 years ago, and as Mike said earlier, since everyone has gotten out after COVID, we've seen a huge increase in attendance at all of the fairs. So.
But obviously, this kind of falls in line with our mission of trying to expand and find different events to meet with to held up at the event center. One of the things that we had talked about was they have a guy that's got is it a Trebuchet?
Trebuchet.
Trebuchet.
Like a
That's a
catapult.
big old catapult, and they can catapult candy, which doesn't hurt my feelings, you know what I mean? So I think it does allow us a little bit of space to flex if we need to. We have the parking lot up there, and we also have some of the path that if we needed to essentially hold vendor areas in one. I mean, it gives us some flexibility, but I think the space is a perfect size.
My last question is, at one point in time, we talked about maybe some archery stuff, so some projectiles, will that?
Two
Different events?
Two different
Okay.
events.
All right.
But these guys, they did talk about bringing the folks from Salt Lake that would do the sword fighting stuff, which would also.
Right, but they're
Yeah.
completely self-contained. They bring their own fenced, like a fighting area,
Their
is what
own
they call it.
octagon.
So it's a wood fenced spot that they do all their fighting in. So it's contained. They've been doing it for a while. They're pretty much building their business market on doing that, going to different fairs and things like that.
Cool.
The Trebuchet does have some axe throwing, but again, it's the same thing where it is, they bring their own netting, they bring their own backstops, and it's all self-contained within their
Okay.
setup.
Okay.
With all that stuff,
Mhm.
I would like somewhere in here that it says, well, it kind of does, but where it says that if you don't okay it, they don't do it.
Yeah.
If you don't feel like it's safe for the public, we got to have the right to say, that's not going to happen on Bannock County property.
And honestly, we've done a lot of that vetting up until this point.
Okay.
Like Jeff has said, I've said no to some events that I thought were just too, sounds cool, but just a little too risky. Even the Trebuchet, depending on what they throw, they can throw all sorts of projectiles, but we want to throw something kind of cool, or at least that's the.
I don't want to see
But,
we're responsible on this alcohol part. I don't want to see somebody in that catapult with alcohol, and us be responsible for it. Just plain and simple.
That's how we get back and forth from the parking lot.
So do we need to add a clause that gives Scott the right to, or
Final say.
maybe set aside something, a right to review any activities that are going to go on and reject any that he sees fit?
So typically, what we've done in the past, like when we've had events that have wanted to land helicopters or do things on the property, usually I just review the plan and say, it's good to go. But I don't know that we've ever had a clause in there. That's just been something that I've held the right to do. But if it's something that we want to write in the contracts, we can.
I don't think it would hurt to have it in there,
Okay.
honestly.
So we can add that to it.
So,
And
any
then-
other questions?
And then talking about the alcohol here, I don't know. There's just a lot of things in there I don't think needs to be in there. I mean, if we're responsible for alcohol, why is it in their contract?
Well, the whole reason we threw it in their contract is because we take 100% of the proceeds. And sometimes they're, yeah.
Well, and that's, looking at it, I mean, like the first 2-3 lines,
Mhm.
but when it comes down that Bannock County Event Center will purchase all alcohol for resale. Bannock County Event Center will maintain Bannock County's beer and alcohol booth at a high level and will be responsible for all damages. mean,
We can definitely reduce the amount of verbiage in that.
that to me is just, that's our responsibility if we're the ones that's selling it, and that's our booth.
So if we just
I don't know.
keep the first two lines in there, the Bannock County Event Center will receive 100% of the alcohol sales, sales profit, the Bannock County Event Center will operate the beer/alcohol booth, and then just remove everything.
That,
After
to me,
that.
the other
Okay.
stuff is our responsibility anyway,
Yeah.
so they have nothing to do with it then.
Sure.
Do you only have, how many alcohol booths are you gonna have? Just one?
I guess it really depends. So one of the things that we've got, the reason we hold the alcohol license up there, so we'll be responsible for the alcohol sales. Even though that part is not under our alcohol license, we can pull a catering permit and use that part of the property. We could expand. The issue is just, do we have the ability to expand? So we're still working on some of our, how are we going to get alcohol up there? Do we want to sell it out of a trailer? Do we want to go up and do it, tent? Those are some of the logistics we're looking at. As we're talking, and once they announce the fair and we start seeing what the attendance is going to be, obviously, we can expand out. We'll have the same resources that we'll utilize for the concerts, and trying to expand out for some of the, if there's a lot of people, we could do multiple areas in that same area. We could do multiple options in that area, but that's good. I just want to expand and contract as we look at what the numbers look like.
We've just taken over the alcohol licenses up there in the last 2 years,
Yeah, I saw that.
and so there's some new experiences with it.
So, Mr. Chair, make a motion that we approve the contract pending adding the clause that Bannock County has final say on events that occur. How's that?
Any comments?
No.
Further? We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Looks like Hal, come up. Looks like Tanner and Adamson.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Commissioner Moser, as point of clarification, this agenda request was by Mr. Stenquist, the applicant.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I'll correct a little bit. Applicant is Rio Vista Development LLC. Tanner was just acting on my behalf. Dennis Adamson with Rio Vista Development LLC. Good morning, Commissioners. Last time I was before you, we were completing a bonding agreement to record the final plat for our Westfield Estates Division 4. That occurred, and then as we all remember, the last 2 months, winter came in hard and fast, and due to weather conditions, we were unable to finish some of the excavation elements and concrete installation elements on that bonding agreement. We're here just because we want to make sure that the Commissioners understood we have full intention of taking care of those items. However, it's my understanding in talking with staff that
The bonds due.
the bonds do, and we don't want to be a burden on the staff either. Obviously, we could walk away and the county complete those items, but we want to take the responsibility to get those items done. We just can't do them when the weather's been the way it's been. It's my understanding that we do need a resolution from the Commissioners to extend the time frame, allowing us to get these things completed. We will do that willingly and with great zeal once the weather breaks. It's kind of a disappointment to us, but we need the water in this area, so we're not going to complain too bad, but it has been a rough late fall, early winter to try to do any development, excavation, and things like that. So we apologize for our delay. That wasn't our intent, but we have every intention of, once the weather breaks, to get that taken care of. I would say that if past winters break the same way this winter does, that by the end of March, we would have every intention of having these items complete. If the Commission didn't want to see my face again this spring, we could go the end of April if it worked for you. But our intention is, as soon as we can get out there and it's not a muddy mess, to complete the remaining items. Most of the items were done on the bonding agreement. It was just the concrete installation for the ADA approaches and, and just final grade for like the swells and things like that, just excavation items. So if it pleases the commissioners, a resolution that extends the bond agreement to the end of March or end of April would be greatly appreciated.
Comments, questions?
No. Anything from staff?
I can say that Kyle and myself, Buddy and Elise did go out on site yesterday to check the status of the project, and Dennis is correct. That is the amount of work that is left to be completed. So.
Okay.
And I do have a copy of the contract with me if you wanted to look it over.
No, I'm comfortable doing that. I don't want to create a hardship for anybody on that.
I think maybe we should look at just doing it till the end of April, so we're done with this, and who knows what the weather's going to be.
I would agree with that.
Make a motion.
I make a motion that we extend the bond agreement to the last day of April 2023.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. All right. Well, you're up here. Thank you. First item. Let's see.
And don't forget to
Don't want that one yet. No. Rio Vista?
No, we just did that.
That one? Okay, there's the other one.
The community rating system.
Ratings underneath. All right. CRS.
So commissioners, by the way, thank you for entertaining us this morning. Mr. Crowder, it's a pleasure to have you with us today. Welcome.
Thank you.
You might see our face more than you want to as we move a couple of these things
Well, I've been
forward.
watching it on the videos, so I've seen a lot of it already. So.
Well, I've seen the back of your head.
Yeah, there you go. Well, when he turns around, I catch it once.
Real quickly, I have with me today Tristan Borkman, Assistant Planning Director. Just by way of introduction, there's a number of things that have been taking place through the last quarter of 22, of which Tristan has been at the forefront and the lead. By the way, she has passed her certification for floodplain manager. So she will be taking that role until I can finish mine and get mine taken care of.
Well, congratulations and thank you.
Thank you.
In that process, she did some study, not only for the exam, but certain aspects of our participation in the certification system. And so she's prepared some paperwork for you to review. She will share with you a little bit more about what that entails, the amount of labor that it takes our office to certify every year. I think it's every 3 years. We have an audit where they physically come and we drive through the county looking at particular aspects of whether we are not compliant with the regulations, et cetera. So I'll turn the time over to Tristan and let her lead that discussion.
Tristan Borkman, Planning Assistant Director. So during the class that I took to get my certification, our state floodplain coordinator, she mentioned our community rating system, the CRS program that we are involved in, which gives any county residents a 5% discount on their flood insurance. And she had mentioned during the class that many Idaho counties are opting out of the CRS program because the amount of work that it takes staff just does not calculate and pencil out for how much of a discount residents are receiving. So I have included in your packet all of the documents that she gave to me, the number of policies that we have in the county, and the amount of discount that overall the county residents are receiving through this CRS program. And then I did just a quick Excel spreadsheet showing just the cost to us and our office as we go through and complete all of the qualifications required to get that 5% discount. And just to let you know also, I have only ever been involved in the 1-year CRS recertification. We are coming up in August, I believe, of this year for our 5-year, which is apparently a lot more extensive. So this $1,900 that you see in my Excel spreadsheet is just for a 1-year recertification. So I don't have any idea how much it will cost us for a 5-year recert. But it's all just an informational packet for you to determine the cost benefit analysis for yourself and decide if this is something you want to continue to do or if it's something that we'd rather opt out of.
Okay. Questions?
As a point of interest, there's only one other in all of the eastern side of the state that participates in CRS besides Bannock County, and that's the city of Pocatello. And they're in the process of doing their own study to find out whether or not it's worth their time and efforts as well. I believe there were 4 counties in the Panhandle that have opted out. And they, of course, are in a much more wet climate as well as more rivers and streams, etc. So just an FYI.
So this work you do, can you just go through it again? What exactly is the benefit? The benefit is to individual landowners?
Yes.
That they get a discount on flood insurance, is that right?
Correct. Yep, so there are criteria that we have to meet in order to get that discount. And there's 20 or 30 items that you could potentially opt into to get a higher rating. So right now we are sitting at the lowest rating, doing the minimal amount of work to get a 5%. If we did more, residents could get 10%, 30% discount, but then there would be more qualifications that we would have to go through. So we have to send out outreach letters to let people know about how safety in the floodplain, evacuation. We have to post stuff to our website. So just the letters alone that we send out, the cost of all of those outreach is really what that cost breakdown is that I've created that shows how much it costs us to just do the minimum requirements for the CRS program.
Okay. And so if now you said there are ways you could get 20, 30% discounts. Would that be substantially more work than what you're talking about here?
Yes.
Mr. Crowder,
Yes, sir.
to be able to get that type of a discount, you would need a full-time employee in our department to take care of all of that paperwork. You would need to devote one person full-time.
Gotcha.
That's why most people don't participate. Real quickly, also some clarification, and I don't know how much the commission does or does not know about building in the floodplain. Some counties, because they don't want to participate, they just don't allow you to build in their floodplain, period. They just have an ordinance that says you can't build here. We don't have that type of an ordinance. We allow people to build in the floodplain as long as they follow FEMA's directives for building in the floodplain. And so we participate that way. We highly encourage people not to because it becomes very laborious to pull a building permit to be in the floodplain, as well as the construction type for foundations that have to go into the floodplain. And by the time you pencil it out, sometimes it's not worth it to go to that effort for a foundation in the floodplain. So there's a number of items that go into this entire equation of the floodplain.
Okay, so it sounds like the homeowners are really taking an increased risk themselves if they want to take
That is
this.
correct.
Okay.
Further comments?
No, I appreciated the analysis, thank you.
There is a letter here that could take my signature to pull out of this if that is the desire of the board.
I'm comfortable with the recommendation from staff. I
Me
think it
too.
makes sense. Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept staff's recommendation to withdraw from the CRS program and authorize signature.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Do you want this letter?
Yes, please.
All right, looks like your second item.
And once again, I'll turn turn the time over. Jim Bagley, county planner, has been in the process of restructuring the existing ordinance of the subdivision ordinance and the zoning ordinance and creating a document that is no longer two and changing some language. I have been in the process of doing some edits on particular items, and Jim will be putting those edits into the document. It's taken us a long time to get to this point. That said, Tristan has taken charge in relation to creating a plan moving forward and how to do the rewrite and get it in front of the public, etc. I'll turn the time over to her, and she can give you an update on the tasks that she's done, the plan moving forward.
So since I started about almost 4 years ago, I have heard from our office, the new ordinance will be done in a year. The new ordinance will be done in a year.
Don't say that while I'm sitting next to you.
And then it never gets
I've
done.
heard it myself.
And after Elise and I took the project management class a couple of months ago, I realized that's why we keep saying it'll be done in a year and it never gets done, because we just don't implement a plan to actually complete it. So I have actually started and gone through and created an advisory committee of about 15 people, from developers to surveyors to South County citizens, North County citizens, couple people from City of Pocatello, City of Chubbuck, to get input from different perspectives as we move through this process to help edit drafts and actually get it completed. I have entered a timeline that I am thinking might be a little optimistic, but I'm hopeful that we can get through it and have a final draft in front of commission by January 2nd, 2024 is my current goal. So we just wanted to let you know we're working on it. I'm putting the plan in place. I've started using, through Adam's help, software that we have through our Microsoft 365 to keep track of all of our task lists. And so if you have any questions for me, I have copies of what I have for the plan so far. I can give you guys copies if you'd like to see what I have in place currently.
I would like to see that when you get a chance. If you've got
Yeah,
it.
I can.
If you just email them to us,
Okay, I can do that.
it would be good. Email them to our office, and then Christie will distribute them
Perfect.
to us. Do you have anybody from Solomon Service on your committee?
I do not.
Do we need to?
I spent an hour and a half there this week, last week. They have all kinds of solutions, I promise you. So I'm just saying, a lot of people in South County that could
Are
help.
those solutions just relative to the Incan area?
Quite a few of them are.
Okay.
Anyway, that'd be good if you'd send that to us.
Yep,
And we
I can do
appreciate
that.
your efforts on that. It's
Of course.
a task that is overdue.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you.
Yes.
Questions?
Nope.
All right. Thank you very much. Ryan.
Morning.
Good morning.
Ryan Grayson, Bannock County Adult Probation and Pretrial. I think my request is pretty self-explanatory. We've got some file cabinets we'd like to get rid of. If you have any questions, I'm here for you.
I don't. Any questions, concerns?
How do you get rid of them?
He wants to send them to the office.
Oh,
But they can't get rid of it. Nobody can get rid of any county equipment or without going to the commissioner. They're the only ones that can sign to get that over with. So they come before us
Or records too.
or records. so they have to come before us, so it's on the record that we said it was
And then
okay.
this all just gets sent over to like primetime auction and
Mhm.
put it on their thing, right? Okay,
Yeah.
sounds
Yeah.
good.
Motion?
Mr. Chair, make a motion that we authorize disposal of property as requested.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are you here on the printer?
No.
Okay. I just see Anita was here for one of the same type deals. All right,
I know that printer, we
talked about it.
they got the new one
Uh-huh.
delivered, and this is the one that was broken and not repairable that she wanted to get rid of.
Can we just make a motion on that one then?
I would-
I know we've talked about it a couple of times.
Yeah,
So, Mr. Chair, make a motion that we approve the disposal of the plotter printer from the assessor's office as requested.
we have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, Dan, come on up.
What's this?
Okay, the first one is scope of work to update Bannock County Courthouse concealed weapons. And then replace the clock.
All right, okay, we'll do the clock second. Dan Kendall, Facilities Director, I'll go down the line.
Yeah, Ashley Ford, Maintenance Technician. Shannon Crystal, Chief Procurement Officer.
Adam McKinney, Chief Technical Officer.
Tony Monty, Bannock County Sheriff.
Kathleen Ballard, Bannock County Sheriff.
Kerry Hong, Trial Court Administrator.
As you said, we're here to talk about the concealed weapons detection units. The commission asked that we form a committee and present some information, give you an update. The two units that we're talking about replacing are at the public entrances here at the courthouse. Shanda and Captain Ballard did a great job putting information for us to look at and consider. This group of people have, a different area of expertise. Everyone has a little piece of the puzzle. I wanted everyone to kind of present what they had. And then maybe end with Shanda on the procurement side of things. For me, I was looking at if we replace the units, does it affect the building at all? Do we have to change anything to the structure? And we don't. Another area I wanted to look at was the ADA entrance. We have some compliance issues on that right now, and the new units would resolve those problems. So that'd be a great thing. But the big thing I think for all of us is the age of the units that we're using now. They're extremely old and out of date, but I wanted to go to Adam first and talk about if those things went down, the problems that would come up.
Yeah, Adam McKinney. This system was actually originally installed in June of 1998. It was designed and engineered by INL and Lockheed Martin. It was a mature prototype when it was put in, so it was never actually a complete system. It's been in and it's been running and all that amount of time. We've not had support for that system. We haven't really needed it. We've got the technical schematics. It takes a soldering iron and a floppy drive to fix it, but the system has been very robust and we've absolutely gotten our money's worth. I simply recommend, we looked at it from the network perspective side. This new system and what we've looked at does not tax the system, doesn't require any additional infrastructure for the network side. It's just a good replacement time to look at replacing it. So, if you have any questions on the technical side of it, I'm happy to answer.
So will you throw away your floppy drive that you used to use?
This will go to the County History Museum. Our history guy. Yes. As you know, we've been in the process of updating quite a lot of technical assets and resources, and this is another one. And this system was designed for a certain amount of use. We've gotten that amount of use, and then we've doubled and almost tripled that. So.
Go down to Captain Ballard.
We're just looking for a system to help the screening process, to vet it a little bit better and make it a little easier and more effective, and to keep all the public and the employees safe in the building.
Will it provide an increase in speed going through, make us more efficient that way, or?
We don't want to take back on any of the process that we have, only add to it. I do believe it will speed it up. There may be some instances, but I do believe it'll speed it up a little bit, make it easier.
Gary?
Thanks, Dan. So the courts really appreciate the county working with us along this whole process. I've kept Judge Carnrolli, our administrative district judge, up to speed and on our behalf. I mean, our goals really align on this. We're interested in courthouse security, both for the public who come here and for the employees who work here, whether they're court employees, county employees, state employees, whatever. This needs to be a safe place. And when we look at those concealed weapons detectors, in particular, Adam's point is well made. We've certainly got a good service life out of the existing system, but where we sit is we can't wait for those to fail before we replace them. We want to make sure that we have proven technology and technology that the county will get good return on investment. And to Captain Ballard's point, preserve kind of the processes that have kept us safe up to this point, but look at ways like eliminating false positives, which the system will offer, of making it a more efficient process because we're here to serve the public. But to do that, we're also not taking any step back towards the safety of those who are here inside the courthouse. So from the court's perspective, by both rule and statute, where we have some responsibility for courthouse security, we just wanted to endorse this process and thank the county for involving the courts.
Sheriff, have anything for us?
No, I've gone and looked at some of the systems that they've looked at in other courthouses, and I like either one of them. So.
So what the group is asking for today is an approval on a scope for the project, right? If this is something that we want to move forward and do, to what extent? Do we want to do a single door? Do we want to do both doors? Do we want to get the best, highest, we're looking for a scope from the commission and how you want us to move forward. And then we do have our group has talked about a couple different options as far as procuring those items. The technology, the video that I sent for the commissioners to review, that technology, the equipment that we want is standard. It's just who is going to install and how they're going to service that equipment. So the video that you watched is what we're moving forward as far as equipment if approved by the commissioner board. But as who is going to install that and how they're going to service this for the remainder of its life cycle, right? That is what's left to be procured. And there's a couple different avenues for that. We do have a couple companies that have reached out that have state contracts or other ones that potentially, depending on the scope again, we could piggyback off those contracts, or having a discussion with the group if we felt that that would be more beneficial to go out to bid. That's also another option that we have. We do not have costs for the commissioners to review, as we don't have an approved scope, so we don't know what we're looking at. A couple of the companies that submitted requests for information for us, they had a couple different approaches of how to do things. One of the companies, there was a bigger upfront installation cost and then a smaller yearly maintenance cost. And the other one was almost flip of that. Very not minimal. This is going to be an investment, a capital investment, but a lower investment of the upfront equipment to install it, but then there was a higher service fee to maintain and upgrade those systems as time went on. So again, we're looking for a scope before we can then determine the best path to procure, that we can bring back a plan to the commission for an implementation and then the costs associated with that.
Scope meaning how many doors we'll cover?
Right, or to the extent, and Captain Ballard could speak better to this, but the equipment is the same, but we are looking at, our current system does not have a annual maintenance service equipment with it. This one would. They would provide updates, response times for repairs, anything like that. So we are looking at both the installation cost as well as the ongoing servicing of this equipment to make it functional.
There's analytics as well. So the system is designed to be, it uploads its metrics, so it learns as it's used, and that service is an additional ongoing cost.
What is it learning?
It actually has AI. The system is provided, it's a Motorola product. The AI will actually it does false positives. If you saw in that video, they walk through with a bag full of metal parts that wouldn't set it off, but if you put a gun spring or a barrel, a firing pin in there, it would set it off. That stuff is uploaded to the cloud, and we can actually pull reporting from that, as well as other people who have this system in and use it, the metrics that they're using are integrated into the system so that we benefit from other places as they detect positives and false positives.
Do you have a question?
Where does the money come from for this? Is that your domain or?
We do have a budget for a portion of it. I haven't been involved in the procurement process, so I'm not sure what the prices are going to be.
So-
And then the annual maintenance will have to be a new budget item for next year.
Okay, so do you have any idea about the cost to do one door, multiple doors, everything in the courthouse?
So as part of the request for information, we did ask them to include costs on items, just so we would get a ballpark. That's kind of how we know that some of the companies are more upfront, less on the annual side, and then the reverse. Right now, our ballpark guess would be more than the 150 that we have budgeted. But
Would be what?
More than the 150,000 that we have budgeted for it. But
And what do you mean by that? To do just one or do everything?
to do everything. To do
Okay.
everything. There wasn't.
But you don't know how much more?
Correct, because we haven't bid it out. We were just asking, they were very clear, a couple of the vendors were very clear as we started this process last year, October, November, right? They were very clear saying that January the price tag would increase, but again, to the tune of what, we don't know until we actually go out and publicly procure or piggyback off contracts. Then we could identify the costs from there. But it depends. Potentially, if we were to go with a company that was a less upfront installation, the budgeted amount that we had could cover. But like Christy mentioned, there would be an ongoing cost that would be associated that would need to be approved in line items going forward. But until this meeting and knowing and understanding, we have approval to move forward, and then we can start that next phase of procuring the item, getting the dollar amount, and then bringing that back to the board with a discussion on the timeline and the dollar amount and how to.
Well, I'd like to see your suggestion. I haven't seen, the two sides. And on paper, what's a suggestion from this group that's looked it over? Because we haven't been involved in any of it. And so until I see something, I can't give you a yes or no. And then the other part is, if we're going to do all this, and I know this is going further, but we're closing off 6th Street. I would like to extend that entrance so that people aren't out in the weather and our maintenance people aren't having to have ice in the bottom of that pit and stuff. So I think that there's some other conversations that need to go along with it. Are we just like for like, or are we going to improve the circumstances of coming in the courthouse while we're doing all these things? Them are questions that I would like to have answered a little bit before we say, okay, just put it out for bid, because there's other aspects of it that need to be included, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think we have to have some kind of estimates of costs for the different options to make a decision as well.
Sometimes that makes it difficult because it's definitely an item that needs to go out to be procured, to be bid, and whether or not that's a.
But if you bring us the two options that you have and a suggestion, you got a ballpark figure. It's not going to be exact until we go out to bid, but it's going to be a ballpark figure that at least, well, this has this, and, are we going to be paying $50,000 a year for the next 40 years, or is it $10,000 a year if we do this? I got to know them two options. I got to know them sides.
Yeah, I'm 100% with Commissioner Moser on this.
Bring us a 95% baked solution.
And we can use the figures that were attached to the request for information, but they were clear that those have increased, but we can use that as a base, right? That this is in the ballpark of what we're.
Yeah. Gives us an option of what we're looking at. Long-term and stuff. And then I'd like to talk to you a little bit, and y'all, you know, down there about the front door. Is there a different pattern that we need to have coming in there? And if we're close that road off and change the parking a little bit and, you know.
Mr. Chair, and I think it's probably a more detailed conversation when we're able to all get together. But is kind of the initial thinking of once the street's closed out and pushing out kind of the entrance idea for the public, would that change the footprint of where the building starts right now and where we're currently clearing? Or is it more putting like some covered protection for folks as they're waiting to get screened through security?
And that's why I want to talk to y'all and see what your feelings are. The pattern, the flow to come in, do we need to change it somewhat? Do we need to widen that so that people coming down one side's coming in and another side's going out? That's a conversation I think that we need to have, because that makes a difference in the location. Do we put it exactly where it's at right now, or do we move it to the other side and change the flow?
Good.
Okay?
All right.
Any further questions on this? All right. Let's talk about a clock then.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So, Ashley and I have been working on the front of the courthouse. Had several problems up there with lighting and a leaky roof, and the clock doesn't work, and the logo needed updated. So we're chiseling away at it. We've got the logo and the lettering done. The clock hasn't worked for at least 5 years, I guess. And the roof should be fixed in the next couple of weeks. So making some good progress. But the clock, there's not a lot of companies that work on those old clocks. And we've reached out to several companies and really only got one response. Our architect has used this company on several projects on the large exterior clocks. So we had some pricing, and I just wanted to bring it in front of you. It's an investment, but I think if we're going to have a clock, it needs to work. I'd like to move forward.
Twice a day.
Yeah, that's right, twice a day. Yep. It's an investment, but I'd like to move forward. We have the funding for it, and just need a signature to get her done.
I have some questions on this. Where is the money coming from to do this?
We have two options. Dan's got a general maintenance budget within the maintenance department. He's also got special projects that are in the capital acquisitions trust that he can use this for.
And if we didn't use it on this, we could use it on something else?
Yeah.
And how long has this clock not worked?
At least 5 years.
Okay. I think you said the cost for this, if I added up all your numbers, it's around $10,000.
It is.
Yeah, I'm not interested in spending $10,000 to make a clock work that nobody is going to be using to know what time it is.
I vacillate on this one, because if we're gonna have a clock, it should work.
Right.
And if we don't repair the clock, then what's our option? Can we seal in the hole and get rid of all the lettering?
Yep. You just take it down and seal it up and wash it up. Maybe you would never even notice that it was there. That's our options.
And you know, I have another thought on that.
Okay.
And I don't know if this makes sense or not, but you could set the clock to some specific time that's relevant to something that happened in the county and keep that as a permanent time on the clock as well. So I think there are other options without just getting rid of the clock completely that could be looked into.
Well, I don't know what the historical time would be. I
I
mean,
don't either.
dates, yes, but time, I don't know.
I was born at 11:35. I'm just saying.
That's as good as any, right?
But
In the county, though? In the county.
Okay, all right.
At the Bannock Hospital.
Okay.
as I've looked at this too, I don't pay attention to the clock.
Yeah.
Honestly. I drive by it probably, a few times a week. I look at the stairs. I've looked at our new sign up there once.
Looks great, yeah.
And so, in my opinion, I'd just take everything down and clean it up and make the front of it look
Is that
better.
very costly to do that rather than like setting it at a specific time?
It's
Is
less
that a lot
than-
of work?
It's less than $10,000.
I'm sure it's less than 10,000.
We have a man lift?
I want like the minimum amount of cost to this project.
I guess if we rented a man lift, it'd probably be $1,500 for a lift that could get up that high, and we could take it down ourselves.
Yeah, I don't even want to spend that.
But we do that when we're doing something else with the man lift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
We don't, I mean,
Yeah.
it's okay to me for right now, how it is. I don't even know what time it is, but it's right twice a day.
Yeah.
And that's a historical moment,
Yeah.
There you go.
starting today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We can address it when we have a man lift here working on windows or whatever it might be. And clean it up or take it down, whatever you guys want to do.
I'd take it off your list and
Okay.
say, we'll take care of it if we have a lift here one day.
Okay.
Take it down, clean it up.
All right. Thank you.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Yep. Great.
We don't even need a motion on that one.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks.
All right. What are you guys waiting for?
Forensic pathology update.
Okay, let's go to Braden. I've been jumping around a little
Yeah,
bit.
man, I mean, Texas, you need to know now, but Braden Clayson, Chief of Staff. Three things here. Chrissy's gonna be vital for all three as always, but the first thing is just a general forensic pathology update. We've had 3 meetings now, in consultation with Smith Group and ISU. We've come to 2 potential sites, one being the RFC building on campus, which is the old auto body shop in the old College of Tech, and the other being the Business Technology Center, which is up by the On Semiconductor Accelerator Center area.
The LA Semiconductor.
LA Semiconductor, excuse me. We received bids and construction costs on all 4 options. They did come in higher than what we initially had thought we'd allocate to that project. The amount of the projected cost that they've given us now is subjected to a larger square footage area than what we feel we can get by with. So we're consulting with Smith Group to see if we can get a projected cost for, I think they've given us a projection for 7,200 square feet right now. I think we thought we could get that down to about 5,000 square feet is what we're hoping to do. The projections that they've got, it's about $1,000 per square foot that goes into it. So the goal behind the 7,200 square feet was we're giving ourselves room to grow in case the facility needs to expand. Once it's up and running and people are coming here and doing autopsies more frequently. We are in consultation with Dottie Owens, who we hired as our consultant for this project. We're going to visit both of those sites next week. The university has ideas on which space they'd want us to take, but they'll allow us to take either space. So we're going to go and look at that. And then we'll wait to hear back. We have one more meeting, a consultation with Smith Group, once we kind of choose the space. Once Dottie comes, I think we'll have a clearer image based on the projected layouts that they did build for us. We have some great plans, I think, that are in place to build off of, but also with the plans that they've given us, there is some flexibility as well. So that's kind of the update with the facilities. The overall cost has fluctuated from anywhere from 4 to what they listed at $7.5 million for the building that the ISU would like us to take. The cost for the Business Tech Center was the lowest. That was the 7.5. And then it would fluctuate from about 7.5 to 7.8 with the 3 different options they gave us for the RFC building, or the old auto building. We're going to go and, like I said, walk through that with Dottie and just kind of see what would jive best with her experience in building the new facility in Ada County. And that'll be next week, but just wanted to kind of get that out there and let everybody know what was going on with it.
The other big part about that is they've included a lot of the high-end equipment that they use in bigger facilities that Dottie hasn't had a chance to go through and look at that and say, we don't need that, we don't need this. One item that she's talked about is an x-ray machine, and I can't remember what the big one was.
It's a stand-up, full-body x-ray, it's about $700,000.
Yeah, and she says we do not need something like that. We can get by with something else at a smaller level that they did in Ada County for a lot of years. So, you know, there's a lot of things like that in there that we have yet to review and reduce, but anyway.
Yeah, that is a great point. Everything that was included in their initial offering of what they thought it would take included top of the line, everything state of the art.
Who's they?
Smith Group.
And what do they do?
That's the consultant that we hired in conjunction with ISU they specialize in medical facilities such as autopsy centers, forensic pathology labs, things like
Okay,
that.
so these guys are advising us, you need this, that, and the other.
Correct.
Put this thing together and make
Yep.
it work.
Yep.
Yeah, but now we have this other consultant from Boise, I guess, from Ada
Mhm.
County,
She was the Ada
who is
County
going to
coroner.
really look at this stuff and knock all this
Correct.
down.
And I'll tell you that the Ames building is where we first looked at.
Mhm.
And the first time we brought Dottie down, she walked in there and she said, this is not gonna work. And we'd been working for months,
Yeah.
thinking that this is gonna be a
What was the
facility.
problem?
Access.
Sorry?
Access,
Mm-hmm.
plus the ventilation system
Okay.
and stuff. If you got students in there, and we're in the middle of that building, taking bodies in and out,
Gotcha.
and everything else,
Yeah.
it just wouldn't have worked.
Right.
And so that's when we've gone over and looked at these other facilities, or they have, and so hiring her has been a very much a positive.
Mhm.
She has the expertise in our behalf, not like the Smith Group or whatever.
Right.
Here, top of the line stuff, you got, and that's what happens when you have ARPA funds. People think you can just do whatever you want with them.
I've noticed that.
You've probably been asked for a lot of options that people wanted to use the funds for.
Oh, yeah.
In
Oh,
a
yeah.
short period of time, but anyway, we need to continue to move forward.
Yeah.
And I've stressed this for a while, is them ARPA funds gotta be used up, but we need that facility as quick as possible in Bannock County. I mean, you look at our claims every month or every week, and we're spending $2,000 to go over Boise
$2,000 a
to
month
go do an autopsy. or-
per autopsy.
oh,
How many per
sometimes
month
a
are we
week.
doing? Four a month?
We're gonna spend about 60,000 this year on autopsy, so
60,000.
divide that by 3,000, that's about what it costs for an
How much is this
autopsy.
gonna save us per autopsy when we have this thing in place? We're spending 60 grand a
Well,
month now. What are
That
we
form
gonna
I
be
saw the
spending?
other day said that Ada County was making $1,500 per autopsy.
That's that's revenue
That's
above
what they were
expenses?
making.
Or is that?
That was in the
total?
journal.
That's their cost. There'll be a smaller profit margin in there than $1,500 per autopsy, but
Yeah.
there is some profit in there to maintain the facility and go.
I think their cost per autopsy is about $2,500 is what they charge. I don't know what their profit is off of that, but I think it's about $22,000 to $2,500
It's like
per.
22, 2,300 plus toxicology, so it's about $3,000 per autopsy is what you spend
Mhm.
by the time you're done with your oncology and some of the other stuff.
Histology, oncology, yeah, all that.
How much money have we got committed to this project so far?
We have, when we first started talking about it, we talked about $2 million.
Mm-hmm.
But since then, the price tag's gone up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our number one goal with ARPA funds.
Mm-hmm. Has anyone done a return on investment for this thing?
Mhm.
And I'm assuming that that analysis would have been done back at this initial
Correct.
estimate of 2 million, and now things have changed, so the return's gonna be different than what we.
Correct.
It may be longer.
Yeah, I really think we need to, I agree with you that we should get this thing done sooner rather than later, but I think we really have to look at our numbers carefully and make sure that we're doing it as cost effectively as possible. I'm glad to hear that our consultant out of Ada County is already finding ways that she can pare back what they're telling us.
Correct.
So that's good. But we need to, I think we need to look at this a lot more and make sure that we have got these numbers as close to that 2 million as we can get. It sounds like that's not gonna go.
It's not gonna be close to 2 million. We're trying to get down in that 4.5 million range, based on some square footage estimates and things like that. Because when we initially met with the consultant, their square footage cost went anywhere from $700 a square foot to
About $1,200.
Yeah, $1,200.
Yeah.
So
Is this, is there a higher, so we're doing this in conjunction with ISU, I think. That's my understanding, right? Is that driving our costs higher to be putting this in an ISU?
No.
Building? That's going to be less.
in looking at the cost versus building something fresh versus remodeling, they're pretty much about the same.
Okay.
So, yeah, we've looked at a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'd really like to see an update sometime soon about where we are with the numbers, what our actual return on investment is that we're estimating now that we've had these changes.
Yeah.
We did have a good meeting yesterday with ISU. Just to kind of go over it real quick, I think you kind of, or you touched on it a little bit, but if we were to even create or build our own facility, the cost would go up, and there's a big worry that supplies and equipment would not be available. If we were to make a Bannock County facility standalone, we wouldn't be able to get it done before the ARPA funds were set to be, final reporting is December 31, 25. So we would be closer into Q2, Q3 of 26 if we weren't to do conjunction with ISU, and they've been great as far as giving us a couple spaces, and then, you know, we've just kind of, based on the size of the group and the consultation with the experts, it's taken a while just to get to which facility is going to be the best. But we do, you know, we have another group with Smith Group, or another meeting with Smith Group and ISU, I think 2 or 3 weeks from now. I think it's 2 weeks from now. And that is, you know, that's something we'll talk about with them is, hey, how can we, if we don't do state-of-the-art everything, how can we get by with the equipment that's
Who's the
done?
lead with the county on this project?
I am. Braden.
Yeah, Jeff and I have been leading this.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm not up to speed as much as I think I need to be, so
Sure.
I guess I just need to,
I'm
one of the
not-
things I need to meet with the two of you and really bring myself up to speed on this.
I'll just say that you need to come up to speed on it, but I'm not willing to go backwards and start all over again. We've come a long ways, and we do have deadlines with the ARPA funds of having them spent, and this has always been the #1 project. We started on this in 2019, before ARPA even come about, and so
We've got the deadlines on the state funds as well.
it's been
What's the deadline?
Be June 30, right?
So, yeah, it's coming
State
up.
appropriation.
Yeah.
it's a vital project. Steve?
Can I add one comment?
Yes.
One of the benefits for having this program here is, I mean, from my perspective is, and law enforcement in general in our community, is that every time we have an autopsy on a homicide or a suspicious death, a prosecutor goes, and then usually 2 law enforcement go. And that is a full day out of the office when we could be doing, you know, other work.
On a coroner.
So, yeah, so even though, I mean, everyone's paid regardless, where you're pointing your efforts to get really narrowed when you're in Boise for, it's a 9-hour day at a minimum.
And that's every county
Yes.
on this end of the state.
I should let you guys know, I have spoken to the coroner about this project more than once, and I am not opposed to a forensic pathology lab. I understand the need for it, and especially as it relates to investigations with law enforcement and the importance of it. So I support the idea of the project. It concerns me when I keep seeing, this isn't the first time, I mean, I've been watching the videos, so it's not the first time I've heard this is the estimated cost, and now the cost is much higher.
It concerned me too when we first heard it.
Right. So that's, you know, I have 2 concerns here. Number 1 is I'm not up to speed on what's going on. I need to get myself up to speed so I can make proper decisions on this thing. I do support the idea, and I want to see it go forward quickly, but I want to see it go forward as cost effectively as possible. So really, I think really the main thing for me is I need to meet with you guys, figure out exactly where we are. And I am very happy that we have this consultant here that's going to help us get this thing down to wherever we can, so.
Yep, absolutely.
Tony, any comments?
No, and I'll just reiterate that as we go, we have Tri-County sheriffs meetings monthly, and this is gonna affect this whole side of the state. I know a lot of the law enforcement community on this side of the state are looking forward to utilizing that facility. So when you talk about ROI, I mean, I don't know how you're gonna figure out how many, there's gonna be a lot of other agencies using this. So there's gonna be a lot of autopsies being done on this side. So when you figure an ROI, I don't know how you're gonna figure a lot of those other agencies that use, because it's gonna be used a lot. So I think it's very.
And I think that's some of the information that I need to know.
And we're talking only sheriffs, I'm not
Right.
even talking about municipalities that are out there as well. So
Right.
when you talk about the 17 sheriffs that are on this side of the state, that are all coming to this facility, multiple municipalities as well, with their law enforcement agent, it's gonna be used a lot.
Right.
So.
And like I said, I have spoken
Yeah.
more than once with the coroner. I understand the necessity for this project, and I'm behind it. But I'm always going to be concerned with what are our costs.
Right.
And making sure our costs are controlled for our taxpayers.
And I don't think that you're alone in that, so.
Right.
I got nothing else on that one. We move on to number 2.
Do you want to talk about potentially starting?
Oh, yeah, so Portneuf?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're hoping to get this whole thing kicked off. You know, we won't have the facility. Shannon's done a great job of running through procurement, things like that, and tightening up a timeline that Smith Group otherwise had also kind of projected into 2026. But with the constraints that we have at the ARPA funding, it's got to get done quicker. Shannon did a great job yesterday of kind of getting that timeline condensed and building in some stop gaps in areas where if we do run into delays on supplies or building materials, whatever it may be, that we should still be we're wrapping that project up in 25, right? So we should be wrapping it up in 2025 still, that was music to our ears and ISU's ears. There had been some kind of, I think, caution on both sides as to who was going to be in charge of the project. We did figure out yesterday that once we get all the sites have been chosen, they're going to have a project manager that will work with us directly. We'll be able to just get that going immediately then as far as procurement and all that. But in the meantime, we're going to partner with Portneuf, and we're hoping to get going in there and starting the cutting, as Dottie says, March 1st. So that's something that we're working with them on trying to figure out how to be charged and pay for that, whether it's going to be per autopsy or a monthly fee. But they've been very accommodating, and they've got no issues with allowing us to use the morgue up at the Portneuf facility. So they've been a great partner, and I feel like they're doing a lot of things that are going to allow us to get this thing going and at least give the opportunity to sheriffs to bring and coroners to bring bodies in and get it started. So that we're projecting or hoping to do that starting March 1st.
Good.
Anything else on that one?
Sure.
Okay. The next one, I'm just glad that you guys are all here, except Jason was supposed to stay, but that's just the general conversation on ARPA funds. I don't know how you guys want to open that up. I think Christie's got a breakdown on what we have available, what's been marked.
So I have, this is subject to change. We've changed this document, I don't know how many times. And yesterday after our meeting with, actually, can I keep one of those for Jason?
No, he left.
Yesterday after our meeting with ISU, I changed the forensic pathology number to 9 million. It is not going to be that much, but I put 9 million in here as a absolute worst case scenario to show how much money we would have left. That does not reflect that 9 million has been obligated in any way, shape, or form. This is just kind of more of an overview to show the top part. So now that Jason's not here, I can't razz him live, but he can watch this. He started at the bottom of this document, worked up, and was confused. And once he went to the top and worked down, it made sense. So we received $17,055,000 in ARPA funds. The items in blue are projects that have already started, that we've already started to expend monies. If you look to the right, those expenditure categories have already been defined. And pending the next item, will be reported upon. The next 3 items in yellow, we need to determine the expenditure categories for those items, and then I'll know how to report on those. Brian and I will finish fine tuning those and then bring them before the board once we have those defined. We have to spend $7,055,675 on approved expenditure category items,
Total?
total.
And
Then-
how much of this is approved? Can you tell us which of these are fall into that
The top,
7 million?
all of these top ones that are in highlights have been
All
approved.
fall into it?
Well,
The
they've
7
been
million.
approved.
The 7 million is what he asked.
But the 7 million is just the top 3. We think the 900,000 for the microwave, we'll be able to find a category for it.
Right.
But it hasn't been specifically identified, so that's why I have
But that's
it in-
probable.
Yes,
Okay.
but that's why I have it in yellow. The Safety and Assessment Center, we have spent $330,000 as of today on that. We haven't even looked at what category that would fall in.
So we just don't know.
I still need to do that one. And then the $1 million that has been allocated but not spent and has kind of not been on the radar because we've had other items as a top priority. But that's been allocated for the McCammon Fire Station.
And that would fall into that 7.5 million?
Hopefully.
I believe it would.
Like I said, the ones in yellow,
Mhm.
I haven't met with Brian to specifically say it's A1 or
Gotcha.
A2. So we still need to do that.
Okay. What about the forensic pathology lab? Does that fall into the 7.5 million category?
We think so, but again, we don't have a defined expenditure category to put that in.
Can I ask you, do we know it's a defined category once we get approval?
No.
Or-
It's up to us.
Come see me.
We
and
don't
I can-
ask anybody else for approval.
Mhm.
We just report, this is what it was, and what category we chose them for.
Mhm.
Come see me. I'll
So
get
it
my
sounds like-
big binder out.
Yeah.
And there's specific expenditure categories that the feds have set forth in the Treasury guidance.
So it sounds like we're easily going to have enough spent here with the forensic pathology lab that will fall into that 7.5 million, which frees up, so the 10 million is really more discretionary.
Yes, the
Okay.
10 million is absolutely discretionary towards general county operations.
Okay.
The problem is on the forensic pathology area,
Yeah.
it most likely all falls under public health. But because the public health category just says public health, there's no guidance as to what falls into that.
It's very broad.
So we're comfortable that it's all going to work. So almost all of our projects are already within that expenditure category.
Okay, yeah, that's great.
Guidelines.
That's what I was mostly wondering.
Yeah.
so.
So I put the 9 million in here, like I said, just as a placeholder. It shouldn't be once the space is defined and then Dottie gets to go through that list and say, this is marked up, this is marked up, and then she can bring that list down to a more reasonable amount. But in order for this discussion, it was more to say, how much money do we have left that you could allot to other projects?
For the worst case scenario.
Have we not spent the 900 for the microwave tower yet?
It has been started, but we have not received any invoices. And I'm not sure the work, I mean, it's a go.
Right.
They're starting the process, but I haven't seen an invoice yet.
Okay.
I think Adam said they were waiting until April or something like that.
Probably. It's kind of hard to get up there right now.
But basically, they've been spent. Everything
Yeah.
that you have
It's
here.
been, yeah.
Yeah, it's been spent.
Yeah.
Well, the McCammon hasn't, we haven't spent any money
We need
here.
to-
No, I mean, but it has.
Earmarked.
We've
Yeah.
committed it,
It's
so
been
it's,
earmarked.
it's spent, in my
Right.
opinion.
We probably
not
do need to
changing.
do some follow-up on the McCammon Fire Station and make sure dollars are going to be correct, so that before you decide you can spend the 2 million and start working on projects, we probably need to make sure that's a firm number.
It is a firm number, we're not going above that.
Well, then that's easy.
That was the commitment, up to and no more.
Yeah.
So we have still to allocate $2,075,000, possibly more. Is that all you need on ARPA? Do you want any more discussions?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys.
Just
I'll
your
just open it
report,
up.
your quarterly
Okay.
report, you want to talk about it?
The last item then that I have is our, the ARPA project information form is something that we came up with, that this is just kind of a quick update for John, is we're going to have departments fill this out. They tell us where they think this fits in with the expenditure categories. They give me a description. I'll utilize this report to do my reporting to the state or the federal treasury site. This is the first time I've brought this before the board. I would like the board to approve this, and then I will utilize this document to do the reporting. And then the weight is on your shoulders as opposed to mine.
That's where it's supposed to be. That's why you get the big bucks, buddy.
Is that right? Okay.
So I just need to see if you
We'll just
have any concerns with anything within this report that I'll be copying and pasting into the federal site. Brian has looked at this.
And the only thing that I wouldn't mind on there is a place for us to sign. It's
Okay.
kind of come through us, so that
Okay.
it's part of the record,
Okay, I can add that to the next one.
is what I'd say.
Yeah.
Okay, for now, do you want to sign, just sign the bottom, freehand?
Yeah, we can do it.
Okay, and then if you'll give me that one, then I'll save it in my file.
Okay,
So if I understand your report here correctly, we have about $2 million left in
Yes.
ARPA funds that could be spent.
Yes, that we'll probably do a follow-up meeting if everybody wants to try and come up with ideas.
Well, I have an idea.
Okay,
And one of the things I'd like us to take a serious look at is the report that I have here from Dan Kindle on the recommended FY23 maintenance list. Because I'm seeing millions of dollars in deferred maintenance, buildings recommended to be demolished, some renovation money in there. I feel like if we can bring a lot of our buildings up to speed so that they're completely where they need to be, that probably would derive a benefit to the taxpayers, not just now, and to the workers who have to be in these buildings. Some of them, like if you go over to the assessor's building, I know you guys have been over there and you see the issues. If we can get some of this maintenance caught up and done, I think we would see benefits to the taxpayers, not just this year, but ongoing years. So maybe we could have that discussion at some point.
we will, and we have.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that, and then the question is, do you tear it down? Is it at the end of life?
Yeah.
And the same with the old jail right over here. You can't utilize half the top of that jail,
Yeah,
but we got kids over there going to school,
that's right.
and we can't utilize government funds because it's not handicap accessible.
Mhm.
So we've had, and we'll have this discussion, but we'll get Dan in here, we'll talk about all those things.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
We've talked about up at the event center, that
Mhm.
house.
Yeah, I saw the house the other day.
I mean,
I'm glad I don't live there.
that is the office.
Yeah.
So we've talked about doing something with that.
Mhm.
If you have been to the grandstands up there, they need redone. I mean, there's a lot of projects.
There are a
And
lot of
we need to
projects.
have a specific meeting again. We need to identify the funds.
Yeah,
And then, once we've identified what's left over,
yeah.
then we can have that meeting and talk about all these other projects.
Yeah.
But
so maybe the first part of February, we should have better costs on forensic pathology,
Yeah, well,
which can bring this estimate down.
Mm-hmm.
Then once we bring that estimate down, we'll know the dollars that we're going to be dealing with. Then we could have a follow-up meeting and invite those that are, the parties that are interested, probably like Scott for the event center, definitely Dan. And then just start brainstorming on uses. And then they can provide you a list, and then you guys can do your priorities.
Yeah, that'd be
So
fantastic.
maybe middle of February,
yeah,
we look at it. I could put that on my calendar and then do a agenda or a work session request.
Mhm.
Would that work?
that'd be good.
Okay.
We want to bring Wes into that as well, since we were looking at pairing him with Scott up there.
And an EOC?
Yeah,
EOC?
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
see.
yeah, that'll be part of the conversation.
Okay.
So, motion on this form?
Mr. Chair, make a motion that we approve the form and authorize signature on the report for today.
Okay.
We have a motion, all in
Did you
favor,
have
say aye.
something?
No, I was waiting to say aye.
Oh.
I got mixed up. Aye.
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 Like I said, I didn't even think about having a signature on there, so.
She wants that one also.
That's what happens when you're new.
Oh. Sometimes I forget to even ask. I just go on to the next item. All right, Shanda?
Commissioner Shannon Crystal, Chief Procurement Officer. I only have a single item for the board today, and that is a procurement update for us. So I'd like to start at the top with, I think the department is Public Works, but that engineer pool is really going to be countywide. We've talked about it a couple different times, and as we kind of schedule out which type of work we're going to do for which type of engineer, we're ready to get this project going. We've got a couple different counties. As I've gone through some training, this is how other counties are handling this and have done it for years, and so they sent me some documents. And so those will be great to be reviewed as we then plan what's best for Bannock County. But it'll be very similar to the surveyor pool that we just have to get together. But that project is getting going. We've had enough discussions to understand kind of where we want to head, and so we're ready to put pen to paper, and that one's getting going. On the Emergency Services Fuel Reduction Grant Contractor, I've been in contact with CCOG Charity, and CCOG is heading this up for us, and we're finalizing some language on that. And we do anticipate that going before the board in the next couple weeks. A couple of the items I just wanted to bring to your attention. It was a 3-year grant, and we are already well into, this is the beginning of the 2nd year, so we're gonna, we want to get this work going quickly. So we have language built in there that we want, once this is awarded, that we want equipment on site within X number of days. We want the work to go, once we get a notice to proceed, right? We need movement on this, this work to be done. They do anticipate the project, the grant manager that they have over there is anticipating that a contractor should be able to get about an acre of work completed within a day. And this first project that we have coming before the board is roughly 100 acres. So they are anticipating about 3.5 months for the work. We did want to put a little leeway in there. If we have an early hot summer, work will have to stop on that. And for whatever reason, if we have a long drawn out hot summer and the work is the time frame of which the contractor would be able to do work, could be limited due to sweet Mother Nature, that we have put in there that we would like all work completed by the end of this year.
Which project are you talking about?
So this is the second one on the item, the Fuels Reduction Grant Contractor.
Oh, okay.
So detailed, the actual RFS will come before the board in a couple of weeks for your final review. But this is just a couple of items in the direction that we're headed that I wanted to bring to the board's attention. But that one is moving right along and should be to legal, we're hoping, by the end of this week, and then before the board here pretty quick. So we are using this as a template. There is another cottonwood that's already been approved that will come right after this one. If this one goes well, right, we don't have any hiccups, we're going to review at the end of it, but we're going to use this as a template for all of these other projects. There are several that we want to get rolling. So everything after that should be very similar, right? Just switch the location out, the time frame for which the contractor has to work, but they'll all be very similar. Okay. The planning and development, the surveyor reviewer, that has been activated and published, and it's gone out to all the surveyors that we currently have on staff, and those questions are due here in a couple of weeks on January the 23rd. In regards to the event center fireworks, we received no questions, and those proposals are due next Monday, January 16th. On the jail detention center roof, we did have a bid opening on Tuesday, January 10th. We only received a single bid. So, moving forward, we are doing very similar to what we did with the concert production. We'll go through the same process where we review the proposal that was presented and make sure that they are a competent company, that the sheriff's office is confident can do the work that is required, as well as we're going to vet out the price as well. It was approximately $200,000 over what was budgeted for that project. So we are reaching out to various entities to understand if that is just what the market is going to cost for this repair, or if it was inflated, and have a recommendation before the board once we get those evaluations in. If there are any questions or concerns on anything, I'd be happy to.
I don't.
Nope, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And with that.